Hello everybody and welcome to the hello to ASR, I just completely read that wrong. To the UK and Ireland Radical Race Series, Season 4, Round 6 here at the wonderful Laguna Seca. My name is Jack Oliphant and joining me in the virtual commentary box, as per usual on Absolute Sim Racing, is Ed May. Ed, how the devil are you?
Doing brilliant. Thank you very much, Jack, and looking forward to come to America now after what was an excellent round at Imola. We go across the Atlantic all the way to the Pacific coast to California, where the drivers will have to navigate the very fearsome and demanding WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca. Going through the corkscrew, these radicals, they're certainly going to be a sight, aren't they?
They absolutely are, and we're about to get underway in qualifying. There's a few changes to the championship order, so just so everybody was aware, and that I've seen it off right at the beginning, because sometimes we do forget, we can't bring it up on the screen. However, what we can do is confirm that Simon Edwards is currently top of the championship overall. 178 points as well, a huge margin over second place man Paul Crabb, who in turn doesn't quite have as big a margin, but still a fair old gap between himself and Mike Button. So the top three are Simon Edwards, Paul Crabb, and Mike Button. In fourth, Dominic Lang-Webb, and then rounding out the top five is former championship leader and really someone who dominated the field quite substantially at the beginning of this season, is John McHutchinson, although John hasn't been able to attend for 2 out of the 5 races so far, but he is back tonight. He hasn't done that many laps, but I'm sure he'll probably try and string something together. It's John McCutcheon, he only did about 6 laps in practice, whereas the likes of Simon Edwards did about 75, nearly 80, so we'll keep an eye on both of them. But Simon Edwards out there warming his tyres up, warming his car up in the first minute and a half of qualifying. This is his outlap, Ed, but he's been, with the absence of John McHutchinson, Simon has really stepped up to the field.
Yeah, he has. So this is going to be interesting to see how this goes, how the drivers all contend with one another out on the circuit. Of course, this is the lone qualifying period. All the drivers can go out on track separate to one another and have 3 flying laps to complete within 10 minutes. We saw a lot of the action happen relatively early on in the session, then a little bit downtime when drivers got to complete their laps. But maybe the drivers will opt to go a little bit later in this qualifying session because, of course, the session is a little bit later on in the day, and as the day gets later on, the track cools down, lap times get that bit faster.
Yeah, so what we're looking at now, as you said, is potentially lap times getting faster throughout and everything like that, but of course we've only got a couple of laps to do it. The most tricky part of this circuit is coming up, isn't it, Ed? We need to talk about it, the corkscrew. Very difficult part of the track, it catches out many a driver, and I suppose, you know, Simon Edwards, he put 75 laps in. We don't know how many of them he was close to, you know, equaling his fastest time, XYZ, how consistent he was. But if you only have 3 laps, it could be very easy to screw the corkscrew up 3 times, couldn't it?
Yeah, you do raise a good point there. It's so tricky to try and get under control. But I think a lot of the drivers here, they would have put enough practice laps in if they have been here long enough to know just how to drive the corkscrew. Maybe in qualifying, you race a little bit harder through there than you would, say, in the race. A bit more aggressive to try and find that time. But I'd imagine in the race, we won't see so many mistakes.
No, it's all about, it's a great, fantastic overtaking opportunity. Apologies about me mincing my words there. It's a fantastic overtaking opportunity into the corkscrew as well. So we might see people take it slightly slow because they're trying to size up moves and outbrake each other. Just watching John McHutchinson here, yet to set his fastest lap time. Yet to set a lap time, let alone his fastest one. I'm sure he will go faster in the coming minutes, but he goes across the line and puts himself into P2 already, so you can see it's clearly going to be between Simon Edwards and John McHutchinson as it stands. Second place man in the championship standings, Paul Crabb, is currently in 3rd place. Dominic Lang-Webb in 4th, Paul Clark in 4th at the moment, but there is very little margin for error between the sort of 5 drivers. Going to see a few more times coming in. Simon Edwards has purpled 2 sectors, Sector 3 and Sector 4. Dominic Lang-Webb goes into 2nd place, but as Simon Edwards comes across the line, I think it was an improvement at 16.3. Indeed, it was. So let's have a look. Where is Paul Crabb? Just about to click in then. Paul Crabb goes into second place. Mike Busson up to third. So we're starting to see some more drivers putting in those extra fast lap times. John McCutcheon about to come across the line. Let's see what he's got under the collar. He has got green sectors all the way through, but no purples yet.
Yeah, no purples yet, but of course, it's early days in this qualifying session. You don't want to read too far into the times because, of course, that means that the tyres are not up to temperature. These aren't representative of what the driver's ultimate fastest lap times are. Some drivers excel really well on cold tyres. Other ones, they can bring out the laps when it's hot. So, who knows what's going to happen yet, Jack? There's still plenty of time for things to change.
Yeah, and flitting back to our pole position man, Simon Edwards, he is getting those tyres up to temperature. It's a purple sector 3 and 2 green sectors in 1 and 2. His sector 4 hasn't been quite so hot as he would like. Is that going to cost him pole position? It looks like it's going to be an improved time as he comes across the line. Paul Crabb again, though, with 2 purple sectors. Simon Edwards comes across the line. It was a 16.3 before. It's a 16.2 this time round. Paul Crabb comes across. He's in second place at the moment. What can he pull out? It's a pole position worthy time. A 16 dead. Mike Busson goes into third. John McCutcheon, he's in 4th place at the moment. No purple time, but no purple sectors to his name thus far. But again, he's nothing but green in this lap. Paul Crabb with an absolutely sensational lap time. He's purple in sector 2 and 4 with Graham Brown going into 3rd place this time. So real close lap times. Paul Clark's about to come across the line. He may actually jump ahead of John McCutcheon before he finally crosses it. Let's keep an eye out on it. Paul Clark about to come across the line now. What can he do? I don't think it's an improvement as John crosses the line and goes into 2nd place. Only 0.02 of a second behind Paul Crabb. Dominic Lang-Webb is the next driver in the top 6 to come across the line. And he's going through the penultimate corner now, but those lap times have really just fallen away. But this is the last opportunity, isn't it, Ed?
Yeah, that effort from Graham Brown to go P3, he's now P4, was brilliant. This is going to be the highest I think he's qualified all season long if he can stay up here. Of course, if he can stay is another question because the drivers, they have 1 further lap to go. Paul Crabb, can he creep in to the 1 minute 15s? That is the benchmark time, I think, to snatch pole position because John McCutcheon, he's right up behind him and we know just how quick John McCutcheon has been all season long.
Yeah, but crucially, actually, they're all in the pits, apart from Dominic Lang-Webb and Paul Crabb. So they must have completed their lap time, their allocated laps as Paul Crabb starts to slow right down as well. So they've completed their allocated lap time. Richard Brown ends up spinning as we cut to. That's a bit of a shame. A few drivers still left out there. Phil Glover yet to set a lap time, but he's about to complete his 3rd and final lap. So I'm not entirely sure why he's been unsuccessful. Potentially, that might have something to do with it. Playing with track limits gets you a 1x and disqualifies your flying lap, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, which is a shame. Trying to find any other drivers out on flying laps at the moment. A little bit worried, actually, that we didn't quite get to see those drivers go for it right at the end of the session, but there's still plenty more for drivers to try and maybe creep up inside that top 10.
Yeah, so as Phil Glover about to finish the final lap that he is allocated, Martina Ward's about to start their 1st lap that is allowed to be allocated. So at the moment, 17 drivers on the board. I believe there's about 21 in the session coming across the line. Then Phil Glover does put a lap time on the board, and it's only good enough for 16th place. However, Martina Ward done their out lap, done 1 flying lap, but as I said before, it doesn't seem to have appeared on the board, which probably means there was a track limits violation, not able to set one just yet. Richard Brown currently in 14th place, but not going quicker at all in this lap according to my timing tower anyway. So, yeah, there we go. Richard Brown solidly in 14th. Stuart Mathers and Martina Ward are the only drivers out there at the moment, Ed. So a lot of these drivers getting their lap times in early, but I suppose when you're individually qualifying, you don't quite have that. The track doesn't exactly bed yourself in, does it? It doesn't heat up the track temperature because there's 20-odd cars running around it. It doesn't rubber in or anything. So once 3 laps is done, whether it's late in the session or early in the session, there's not much difference.
Yeah, the only thing you can say is that later on, obviously, like we were mentioning at the start, track temperature gets a little bit cooler.
That's very true.
So that could be a factor into why Martina Ward is going for it this late on. She's going to come across the line now, and what time will come through for Martina? Number 23. Across the line, improves up into P18, just ahead of Michael LeMay there. So good effort from Martina. That'll be it, though, for qualifying. No time to go through and complete one more lap. So the front order seems to be settled down. Paul Crabbe and John McHutchison, the front row, going to be very tasty going into the first corner.
It will do indeed. And Kark, just a few drivers who haven't set any lap time yet. Carl Handley didn't even attempt one. Matthew Burkett didn't even attempt one. Ray Peasley attempted two, but didn't successfully complete one. And Jamie Bird, I don't think, attempted one either. So 4 drivers, all of which haven't set a lap time. And as the timer ticks down to 0, we can now bring you up the grid for race number 1. Paul Crabbe then confirmed on pole position ahead of John McHutchinson, but only by 0.02 of a second. Simon Edwards, a little way down the road in comparison to those 2 drivers, 2.5 tenths down in 3rd place. Graham Brown in 4th with Mike Busson in 5th. Dominic Lang-Webb rounds out the top 6 with Paul Clark, Paul LeMay, James Child and Phil Jocelyn in the top 10. Dave Dowson and Mark Langford are in 11th and 12th. Then 13th sees Tim Addock, Richard Brown in 14th, Simon Maltby 15th, Phil Glover in 16th, 17th is Stuart Mathers, 18th is Martina Ward, Michael LeMay in 19th, Ray Peasley in the top 20, with Matthew Burkett, Jamie Bird and Carl Hanley rounding out the final 3 places, 21st, 22nd and 23rd on the grid. So, we got a full grid. We got Paul Crabbe on pole position. We got John McHutchison back in the championship as well. Championship leader Simon Edwards starting on the 2nd row. Well, 3rd technically, because they are pretty much staggered here. Graham Brown just behind them as well. Dominic Lang-Webb pushing forward from 6th. This has everything we wanted, Ed, to be a fantastic race.
Yeah, but the other thing is, will Laguna deliver? Will we see some excellent racing, some battling as well, going through the corkscrew? That is what I think we're all looking forward to seeing. Paul Crabbe from pole position. John McHutchinson, though, we've seen how good he is with his racecraft. He might be a little bit rusty after spending some time away, but you can never count John out.
No, that lack of practice time around Laguna Seca might hurt him for the first couple of laps, or everybody being a bit slower because they're in the race now, not qualify, might actually work to his advantage. He might actually pick the rhythm up and get going as well, so we'll have to wait and see. Few drivers just waiting. James Child, Jamie Bird and Carl Hadley yet to join the grid, but you can see all the way back flowing the cars down the grid there. Fantastic sight. Plenty of radicals to feast your eyes on here tonight, and as the timer hits 2 minutes, we are about to get underway. The engine notes rise and the lights are coming on. Paul Crabbe will be very nervous on pole position, but we are racing, and it's a very good start by John McHutchinson. I don't think it was a bad start by Paul Crabbe, but John McHutchinson and Simon Edwards with an absolute flyer. Mike Busson in 4th place. It's just about holding off everybody else, but Paul Crabbe gets the inside, the first apex through the double left-hander, and sees off John McHutchinson for the time being, who slots out to the outside to try and take the optimal racing line. Paul Crabbe leading the way for now. Mike Busson in 4th place. Dominic Lang-Webb's up 1 place as well. Paul LeMay into 6th. He's gained 2 places, and we've got a lot of drivers falling down the order. Further back, Martina Ward, I believe, keeps flitting up and down. I don't think any places lost necessarily, but just plenty of action further down the field. But at the moment, Paul Crabbe's had an absolute mega start, but it wasn't as good off the line, to be fair, as John McHutchinson.
Yeah, so as they come up towards the corkscrew now for the first time this race, Paul Crabbe leads the field. Down they go, plummeting through on cold tyres as well in close proximity. This is very good that they're getting through nice and clean. Phil Jocelyn was somewhat offline, but comes through in P9, just behind James Child and ahead of Dave Dowson. And in fact, Phil is actually closing the gap back now to James Child. Maybe try and find a way through, but I think at the moment, very slow into the corner. Cold tyres not quite working in favour of Phil just yet. Of course, with the laps coming through, that will get hotter. With track temperatures as low as they are, I think 20 degrees is what we're seeing. Tyres aren't really hotting up that quickly, they'll find.
No, in fact, we can see on the right-hand side of your screen, 22 degrees, and it'll only drop, won't it, as the sun starts to set here at Laguna Seca. So the tyres will increase in temperature, but the track temperature may well decrease slightly. It's going to be a bit of a difficult one for the drivers to guess, but I suppose they'll also probably maintain each other, won't they? And if the tyres increase and the track temperature decreases, we'll probably see a consistency in the grip levels, I imagine.
Yeah, you can tend to find that it's a lot just down to being consistent with the car or anything else. If you're comfortable in the car, you know how to drive it, you've got good equipment, you can reliably use lap after lap, that'll help you out to no end. But here we can see Simon Maltby, he looked a little bit to try and go around the outside of Graham Brown into the corkscrew, but that won't work. That has, however, forced Graham Brown offline, off the track. And through goes Simon Maltby now into 12th place.
Yeah, one of those psychological race moves I always like to call them. The sort of race move where you size it up, you fill the rear view mirrors of the other driver, and you just sort of make them make a mistake without actually forcing anything on them. Always sort of the advantageous route to do it, because you don't have to do anything. They make the overtake happen for you, essentially. So a very clever bit of driving there by Simon Maltby. Looking a little bit further forward, back to Mike Busson. This is pretty much the closest battle that you have on circuit for within the top 10, to be honest, between himself and Dominic Lang-Webb. Everybody else seems to really spread out, so I don't know if it's a case of the aero wash around here, Ed, or I'm not entirely sure, but John McCutcheon, he's dropped by about a second. We saw in qualifying, yeah, there was only 0.02 of a second between them, so we really weren't expecting this kind of gap to open up.
Yeah, you do use a lot of the downforce here at Laguna Seca. There aren't too many flat-out sections where you can really gain on the cars in front, mostly just from turn 11 all the way into the Andretti hairpin, where you can see drivers making up space, making up gains in those flat-out sections. But other than that, it's a very tricky circuit to overtake, as we just see John McCutcheon go for the overtake. He said he was dropping back. Are you sure?
Well, he was. Yes, I was sure at one point. I'm not. There must have been a mistake by Paul Crabb, who gets back into the slipstream of John, going back up the hill. Is forced to go all the way around the outside. He's going to accept the challenge and turn in a little early there. Luckily, it was door to door and both cars were all right. But there is a bit of damage on Paul Crabb's car. I'm not sure if that was caused by that turn in onto T1. I'm going to see if I can see any indication of why Paul Crabb may have lost a lot of time. I'm just going to have a look and see just at the overtake. There doesn't seem to be anything there, does he? I mean, as I said, John was a full second back. There's no real reason why he should have been within lunging distance of Paul Crabb that I can see on my time. But it's happened, it's done. McCutcheon in the race lead. Paul Crabb with it all to do with a damaged rear end.
Yeah, he's got a bit of work, but maybe we'll see him come back through a little bit of damage as well. Just the smallest amounts to the front end as well, but it doesn't seem to be slowing him down much, because yet again he's right up behind John McCutcheon. They're both dropping Simon Edwards at this rate, so if they can work together, keep on helping each other out, come the end of the race, they could be in a very good spot. But you can definitely see that rear end damage might be upsetting the stability of his car, because Paul Crabb, with a mistake through the final corner, has dropped back away from John now and eventually into the clutches of Simon Edwards.
It doesn't help if you go for a half-hearted move up the inside into the last corner, does it either? And I think that's what Paul Crabb sort of was thinking about, but he's thought about it for too long. Missed his braking zone, was on the wrong bit of track, and unfortunately came out a bit too narrow. Now he probably knows he's got a little bit of pace on Simon Edwards, and he's only gone about a quarter of the way through this race, so he knows he's got plenty of action left to be had, and he's certainly keen on having it with the man who's now in pole position. Phil Jocelyn is off the circuit. Not sure what happened, but his leading positions. Is it any contact, or is it just a mistake out here? And I think that's just too much speed going in. A rear rotation of the car there, Ed. Maybe it was a little bit of a lack of grip on that curb. Not entirely sure.
I think he just turned in with too much speed and the rear just wasn't gripping. You're going to see it here yet again. It turns in, I think, a bit too aggressively more than anything else, actually. And maybe if he sort of eases the car into the corner with that amount of speed, you can make it. I think it was just a little bit too aggressive and the car snapped.
Yeah,
well, there's Richard Brown's moment. Richard, who was doing so well, wasn't he, early on in this race? A mistake in the corkscrew, it seems, to have punished him quite heavily, because he's down now in P14.
Yeah, that is a gutting place to go, especially if you're running, as you said, really rather sharp. Just having a look, see if we can figure out what maybe happened. I think it's just your classic corkscrew incident. He seems to snatch the brakes somewhat there, doesn't it? Dave Dowson actually hits him. That's Dave Dowson just driving past him.
Yeah, rear locking. I know he was trying to turn the car, I think, as well, turning while braking. These cars, they don't like it, especially when you're on heavy loads, because you will lock the rears and spin around.
Yeah. So Richard, unfortunately, finds himself all the way down in 14th place, as we mentioned before. Paul Crabb has to get his head down now. He is pulling away slightly from Simon Edwards. It's not a massive margin. John is managing to just about hold on to his 8/10 gap. For how long, we're not entirely sure, as they're going through the corkscrew now. Dominic Langweb and Mike Busson, again, pretty much one of the closest battles that we've seen. But as I said, that Simon Edwards through the corkscrew actually has really caught up Paul Crabb, and I think Paul might have a little bit of an issue through the second half of this track, because it's where John McCutcheon caught him up, and it's maybe where his sort of Achilles heel is. He's not able to really get the power down or the turn in. Not entirely sure what's wrong with him through that section, but he's not been able to do it very consistently.
So Simon looks to the inside, doesn't go through, though has to wait a little while before going on Paul Crabb. And I think Paul's damage is definitely starting to affect him now. Maybe it wasn't early on, but maybe it was masked somewhat by cooler tyres. But now the tyres are up to temperature, he can really start to notice just where he's losing the performance compared to the rest, and it seems to be just coming out of the corners. It's a little bit twitchy at times.
Yeah, he is struggling slightly. Sorry, I'm just having a look at the replay ticker, see if there's anything that's going on. Tim Addock just behind Simon Maltby, who we saw earlier on as well, getting right in the thick of the action. And Graham Brown potentially getting thick in the mix as well. Not to be mistaken with Richard Brown, who I almost just mistook him for, thinking the car's changed colour in about half a corner. But no, it's a battle for the top 10 this, with Tim Addock in the middle, Simon Maltby in 9th, and a very wide Graham Brown coming around in 10th place. Just a little bit more of a different line as they head down towards into the corkscrew. In fact, actually, it's now turned into about a 4 or 5 car battle for the top 10 here. This is easily going to boil over at some point. Dominic Langweb very close to the backside of Mike Busson. Keep an eye on that differential. We'll try and cut back to the action if indeed it starts to boil over at the front end of the field. But right now, this one seems to be hotting up, Ed, and everybody gapped themselves somewhat early on in the race. And as we reach just under halfway, it's starting to sort of get back into people's grasps, and look at this, Graham Brown already looking for the move.
Yeah, and you can see Tim Adcock had a bit of a lock-up, ran a bit wide. So here we go, Graham Brown's going to try and find a way through, but can he? That's the real question as we come now into the car, sweeping through the right-hander, and he's gaining now. You can see a little bit of a twitch on the exit, but he's racing hard. He goes to the outside. Is he going to look to the inside? No, not quite. Instead, he doesn't want to lose touch as well, though, to Simon Maltby, which is key for Graham Brown, because he can see not only P10, but also P9 just up the road.
Yeah, and the last thing you want to do when you're in a train as well is go for a half-hearted effort and then lose out on the other 3 places, the likes of Phil Jocelyn, Dave Dowson, and Richard Brown leading, at the back of this field. So, going to be have to be driving extremely smart here. Ray Peasley and Martina Ward, unfortunately, out of the race. Down in 20th position. Stuart Mathers also out of the race. Jamie Bird and Carl Handley, they didn't set a lap time in qualifying. They haven't set any kind of lap here in race 1 either, as Graham Brown goes through and Tim Addock.
Did he Phil Jocelyn with a mistake?
Yeah, did he have a spin, or was it Phil Jocelyn ended up being the one who came off worse there?
I think it might have been Phil Jocelyn who came off worse. So you can see him go into the corner, and he actually had to go wide, lost out a lot of time as a result.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Tim Addock here, he's the one with the snap, but he actually gets it caught and starts going in the right direction again.
Yeah, that was very, very strange. So Tim Adcock, he gets a move pulled on him down the inside. As he's trying to defend it around the outside, he gets a slide on at the rear, nearly collides. So that move to the inside might have actually helped keep everyone safe there.
I can't believe he hasn't made any contact. Credit to not only him, but the other drivers as well. Paul Crabb and Simon Edwards will go back to the front, because all of a sudden there's 2 battles brewing. One of them is Mike Busson, Dominic Langweb, who has been threatening to try and get past Mike Busson for nearly the entirety of the race. And the other one is Paul Crabb versus Simon Edwards. Edwards trying to get an extension of his championship lead. but it's not quite happening just yet. He's going to have to be patient. 9 laps to go. We're only on lap 10, just about halfway. And John McCutcheon somewhat pulled away, a second and a half in the race lead now. And here we go. Oh, I thought Dominic Langweb was going to look up the inside. I thought that was semi-inadvisable through a very fast-flowing right-hander. You're probably better off just trying to maybe put the driver ahead offline, so when you come to the corkscrew, there's an opportunity that he's maybe going a mile an hour down on you, because this corner here is the most important corner on the circuit. If you can nail that, you're pretty much all the way uphill. You can gain a mile an hour or two advantage on your opponent. Dominic Langweb was trying exactly that, but Mike Busson was wise to it. Dominic going a little bit wide as well through the first apex of the corkscrew doesn't hurt him too much.
Also, let's not forget the battle for the front. John McCutcheon leaving Paul Crabb in his wake. It seems the gap is now over 1.5 seconds. Simon Edwards did get close recently. You saw that gap come down to under half a second, but it seems Paul Crabb's found a little bit more pace and is extending that gap by about a quarter of a second. That's what it was previously. And then obviously this fight, Dominic Langweb, Mike Busson fighting together. You can see Dominic is hungry to get through, but just can't find the space at the moment. So, was trying to find space down the inside was Graham Brown, but Simon Maltby held him close to the apex, had to slow Graham down, and it worked in his favour.
It did work in his favour, but Graham's now got the slipstream. It's not going to be enough to get into T1. But Simon Maltby in the thick of the action. I think we've had the probably cameras on him more than we have had on anybody else, but he's doing well to hold on to this 9th position. Graham Brown is very encouraged, shall we say, to try and get through into 9th, however. Richard Brown and Phil Jocelyn. Richard Brown obviously recovering from an earlier incident. He showed good pace in qualifying as Graham Brown looks up the inside, and that puts Simon Maltby off the racing line, has to slow right up. And again, another sort of psychological race move. The move wasn't really on, but Graham Brown just filled the mirrors and forced Simon Maltby to take a different racing line. Here goes Simon Maltby on the attack, though, into the corkscrew, the most famous corner on this magnificent track. But it looks like Graham Brown has the position signed, sealed and delivered.
Yeah, it seemed for me that Graham Brown struggled a little bit on acceleration, but as he got up through the gears, the car seems better set up for some straight line speed, which I think really helped him coming through the corners there, fighting it side by side. But even though he didn't get that good of an exit, he was still able to use that extra little bit of straight line speed to make the move and seal that position. So great stuff there from Graham Brown. Looking at Richard Brown now, who's getting in there, trying to find a way through. But again, it's all like I've been saying, trying to find a way through, because it's so difficult to pass here at Laguna Seca. And most have seen as much overtaking as we have today. There's Paul Crabb. He's closing the gap down to John McCutcheon just a little bit more. But then with a slight mistake through the corkscrew, loses a few tenths.
Yeah, I only brought attention to him because he's just put in 2 purple sectors, sector 2 and a sector 3. So the lap he's on is very quick, and that's quite apparent because he has pulled about 0.4 of a second on John McCutcheon here. We're trying to reel him in. Simon Edwards now was once within 0.2 of a second from Paul Crabb, is now, well over 1. So let's have a look as he comes across the line. I was interested to see his lap time, a 16.1. That's very nearly good enough for pole position. So Paul Crabb finally getting onto his qualifying pace almost. As Richard Brown and Phil Jocelyn are going side by side, but also blinking in and out of existence. Richard Brown, and Tim Adcock. That was how bad Richard's internet connection was just then. We couldn't actually see who he was fighting with and who he was 0.2 of a second behind. But it is, in fact, Tim Adcock, who, remember, had that little moment, that little snatch of the brake or the steering wheel going into the final corner. That really hurt Phil Jocelyn more than anybody else, although it looks like there's going to be a recovering battle here, all chasing up to Simon Maltby, who's been dropped by Graham Brown very quickly. And this is going to be a fight for the top 10 before the end of the race. 6 laps to go. Look how quickly Graham Brown has dropped Simon Maltby. 2.2 seconds. A massive margin from 9 to 10.
Yeah, so Tim Adcock right in the thick of it. Got Richard Brown breathing down his neck, but he also needs to focus on the fight in front. Simon Maltby, he's trying to get through, and Simon Maltby slow coming out of the corner, and all of a sudden Tim nearly closes up onto the apex on the inside that would then become the outside. He's really racing hard as something happened to Simon Maltby there.
Yeah, it's I can't see anything that's actually on the ticker or anything, so I can't see what happened to him. I have just read
Another thing.
Oh.
Actually, sorry, I've just noticed. Look at how Simon Maltby's been going. We only saw him in this fight. Now that he's overtaken, he's cleared up down the road.
Oh, do you mean Graham Brown?
Is it Graham Brown? Yeah, it is Graham Brown. No, Graham Brown, sorry. He's overtaken Simon Maltby and cleared off down the road.
Yeah, I was saying that before. It's amazing. He's dropped in by nearly a second a lap, hasn't he? It's absolutely stunning stuff as Brown versus Adcock gets a little bit spicier. Adcock in the number 21 machine just trying to defend, and I've just seen that Jamie Bird, in the YouTube chat, is saying that his computer froze at the end of practice. Simon Maltby goes wide. Simon Maltby goes off the track and has to now blend back in, although he's not blending very patiently, trying to get right up inside of Richard Brown. It's not happening just yet, but all of a sudden this four-way fight has gotten a lot closer, and that's Tim Adcock going very wide out of the most important corner on the entire circuit because it ruins your run down in towards the corkscrew. Simon Maltby couldn't take advantage of Adcock's mistake, but I tell you one person who did. It was great. It was Richard Brown.
Oh, Richard Brown then taking advantage, getting up inside that top 10, that final top 10 spot. Look at how close they all are together. This is a great fight here.
I need a wider lens, don't I?
Actually, Richard Brown. Yeah, we do need wider lenses. Richard Brown, good exit out of the corner. Tim Adcock will close in with the slipstream, but it won't be enough because that was a brilliant exit out of the corner. So into the Andretti hairpin they come. Covers off the inside anyway, just to be safe. Knows that if he just gets a good line, gets a good run out of the corner, which he does, he won't need to defend into the next one because it's so difficult to overtake in this first sector.
It is, yeah. It's all about the rhythm. It's all about the flow. You don't want anything ruining it, ruining your sort of run. You just want to try and set up the overtakes, as I said, going into the second half of the lap. It's either the first corner or basically the second half of the lap. It's the corkscrew or the final corner or the penultimate corner is a ambitious overtaking place as well. If you just look at the rest of the top 10 though, the gaps between them as Adcock goes a little bit squirrely with the rear end, and that's unfortunately going to end his attack on Richard Brown for the time being, as Phil Jocelyn gets very close to the backside of Simon Maltby, who I think sort of got into that 10th or 9th position, but it doesn't seem to have really had the pace to maintain it. And every so often, every other lap or so, he's making a mistake that's sort of forcing him to fall a little bit further back. And here goes Jocelyn up the inside of Maltby. Is there going to be contact? No. Good racing respect from the two of them, and that was a huge lunge on the brakes from Jocelyn to try and put Maltby off. Ruin Maltby's run off the final corner. Jocelyn hasn't got a brilliant one, but it may still be good enough to try and get up the inside. Maltby moves over and opens the gap. Jocelyn trying to get through on the first apex and manages it by the second apex. Phil is into 12th.
Oh, this is brilliant stuff. It's respect for racing that is, you see between racers, they want to race. They don't really care who goes through. They get their elbows out, but honestly, this is brilliant stuff. Even in radicals around a track where you wouldn't expect them to overtake and be able to race so closely, so cleanly, the UK&I and Radical Race Series, it always delivers as something's happened. Oh, Paul Crabb has been blinked, and that could also worry the drivers around him if he blinks out.
Yeah, never easy to follow someone who's blinking around, and Paul LeMay in 6th position is doing exactly the same thing as well. We haven't really covered the top 10 much, but the rundown is as it stands. John McCutcheon, second and a half ahead of Paul Crabb. Simon Edwards in 3rd place, Mike Busson in 4th. 5th is Dominic Lang-Webb. Paul LeMay in 6th. Paul Clark in 7th. James Child in 8th. With Graham Brown in 9th, and 10th being Richard Brown. And then all of a sudden, the fighting starts to erupt, doesn't it, for what is now 11th place that they're really asking for, because Richard Brown has dropped the likes of Tim Adcock by 8 seconds. A huge margin between Richard and Tim here. It's quite incredible. Actually, no. Between Richard and Graham, my apologies, it is for a fight for the top 10. There is Richard Brown. I got the Browns. I keep getting the Browns mixed up here, Ed. It's quite hard work. It's Dowson right at the backside of Maltby. Maltby's under attack again.
Yeah, Maltby's really starting to feel the pressure now. It feels like he might have been the cork in the bottle. As soon as he's been passed, he just can't keep them all at bay. They're all rushing to get through. Dave Dowson, not on this occasion, will have to wait just a little while longer. Good to see Phil Jocelyn seeming to put his early race woes behind him, fighting nicely in P12.
Yeah, I just thought that Simon Edwards had disappeared then, and maybe had a spin or something, but actually I think it was just a bit of an internet connection glitch, unfortunately, as Adcock really sort of having to defend now. We're into the penultimate lap of the race. These guys were about to start their penultimate lap of the race anyway, and Jocelyn with that late break in the final corner. That's exactly the sort of move he tried to pull before. He's not really necessarily looking for the full move, he's just looking to upset the driver ahead of him so they can ruin his run out. Sorry, he can ruin their run out and maybe get him into the first corner, but I don't think Adcock is going to be caving under that pressure just yet. No, he manages to make both apexes still having track position. The more they fight, Ed, the more it invites Simon Maltby to come back and have another go.
Yeah, you know that Simon Maltby doesn't need many more invitations, does he? He's a driver that races very nicely, tries all he can to get up the order, but it's going to be tricky. You need to set up moves several corners in advance, really, don't you, Jack? We've seen that happen a lot tonight, but are we going to see it as we come into the final few moments of this race?
Yeah, the white flag is out for the likes of John McCutcheon and everybody in the top 10, essentially, as they come across the line. But we're obviously focusing on this battle, which is a fair old while down the road, I have to be honest. About 45 seconds back from the leader is Tim Adcock. So, yeah, a huge margin, a big margin of error as well for John McCutcheon before he gets sucked back into this little battle. I don't think it's going to happen just yet, or indeed at all in this race, to be honest. I'd probably be quite confident in saying that. Commentators curse aside. We will keep an eye on the when he's about to cross the line and give him his due, but at the moment these guys are going to come across the line to start their final lap as Jocelyn looks up the inside. It's not going to happen, and he runs really very wide and he completely misses his braking zone, and that strikes me as a hardware failure more than anything, Ed. That was a very strange one.
Oh.
But we have to flick back to John McCutcheon, so we will have a look at what happened to Phil right at the end. But John McCutcheon is about to come across the line to be a victor yet again. 4 races out of 6 he's participated in. 4 races out of 6 he's won. John McCutcheon takes the victory. Paul Crabb in second place. Simon Edwards, our championship leader, in third. It's not quite the extension he was looking for, but he won't be too displeased about it. Mike Button in fourth, and Dominic Lang-Webb rounds out the top 5.
Yeah, this is a very strange moment though that we just saw. Trying to figure out what exactly happened. Was it, like you say, a hardware failure? He just seems to overshoot the corner, and as soon as he gets onto the gravel, there's no stopping the car. There's no way for the car to dig in and turn through. The tyres have no grip, and he just goes straight on into the wall. He locks the brakes as well, which doesn't help him either. Unfortunate to see.
Yeah, very strange, but there's a drag race to the line between Maltby and Adcock. Maltby and Dowson. It is Maltby who finishes in 12th place, just ahead of Dave Dowson. So, majority of the drivers have now finished. I suppose Laguna Seca, I mean, these are extremely aero-heavy cars. It's hard to sort of race nose to tail with them. And it is a difficult circuit, isn't it? Really, it separates, drivers who put the time in, put the effort in. And there's always going to be quite a large margin of sort of gaps between the drivers. And that's what we saw, especially in the top 10 at the end of that race.
I think we did, yeah. A lot of the drivers able to win out. Other drivers, maybe not so much. But it's, you see it a few times, don't you, at certain tracks. They favour other drivers' abilities. Maybe some of them this evening. They'll be quite glad to see the back of Laguna Seca.
I think there will be. So, one driver who's probably not bothered at all about where he drives next, is everywhere he goes, he seems to be at least within the top 3 or win. John McCutcheon, confirmed winner, 1.3 seconds ahead of Paul Crabb, who comes home in second after gaining that pole position. He'll be probably slightly gutted that he made the mistake and allowed John back in with a chance. Simon Edwards was in third, as I said, not quite the advantage pulled for the championship, but he's far enough ahead probably to still be pretty pleased with a third. Mike Busson in fourth. Dominic Lang-Webb rounds out the top 5. That seems to be where his average finishing position is in pretty much every race so far. Paul LeMay in 6th with Paul Clark in 7th. James Child in 8th. 9th is Graham Brown. 10th is Richard Brown. 11th is Tim Adcock after a fantastically spirited race between himself, Richard Brown, Graham Brown, Simon Maltby, who came 12th, Dave Dowson, who came 13th, and Phil Jocelyn, who ended up in the tyres on the last lap. He came back on the circuit and did finish in 14th position. Michael LeMay was 15th, with 16th being Mark Langford. Matthew Burkett was in 17th, with Phil Glover a lap down in 18th position. And then last but not least is the likes of Stuart Mathers. Ray Pease. No, where are we looking here? Ray Peasley in 90, 17 laps down. Stuart Mathers, 19 laps down. Martina Ward, 19 laps down, as well as Jamie Bird and Carl Hanley. So those are the drivers right at the back of the field. Unfortunately, we didn't quite have everyone finish. We didn't quite have everyone start the race either, which is obviously never what we like to see. But it sometimes happens. Those things do sort of occur in racing, don't they, Ed? It's just some drivers just getting slightly unlucky at the race start.
Yeah, you do unfortunately see that happen, but we do actually have drivers, Jack, waiting interviews. So I think, would you like to do the honours and have a word with our race winner, John McCutcheon?
I'll tell you what, if you drag them in, Ed, I'll have a chat to them because I'd love to have a chat to our race winner.
And well, he's in there with you now,
Jack.
Jack.
Right, sorry, I was too busy setting up the broadcast. John, congratulations! You must be pretty pleased with that one.
Yes, thanks, Jacko. That was a good race, good tight racing again. I think Paul got slowed down in lap 2 or 3. I can't remember.
Is that what happened? We couldn't quite see what had happened to him because there was a good second in between you two, and then all of a sudden you were making a move.
Yeah, you have to go really off track to get slowed down there. So I didn't see it. Like it said, it was about a second in front of me. So it must have just been on the borderline with the slow down. I nearly ran into the back of him because I didn't realise he had a slow down at the last turn.
Well, maybe we can have a chat with him in a couple of minutes' time and see from his perspective what on earth happened. Because, as we said, we were even talking about how much of a gap he was pulling on you, which is something that we didn't expect, really, because in qualifying, 0.02 of a second between the two of you. You must be pretty gutted not to be able to just pip him on that pole position. In the end, it didn't really matter, but when it's that close, it is a bit gutting, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess so, but there's a track where there's no room for error. One little error and it'll slow you down so much. So I knew there would be a chance he would make a mistake, I would make a mistake. So it's just whoever made the less mistakes, if you like. But even in the race, the race lap times were fractions in it as well. For the fastest lap, I think Paul just picked me.
I was going to say your fastest lap was a 1:16.05. Paul Crabb's fastest lap 1:16.01, so 400ths of a second between the two of you. And apart from that, really, you were about 0.3 quicker than everybody else, the likes of Simon Edwards and Mike Busson and things like that. So it was really that just crucial one mistake that Paul made that ended up sort of deciding the race. Were you ever worried that he might come back strong and maybe challenge you towards the end of that race?
Given the nature of the track, it's difficult to overtake here. Usually the car in front's always got the advantage because there's very little draft. So it's a get in the front and hope for the best. And he only got the fastest lap because he was in my draft.
Ah, yeah, well, you can tell him that. You can tell him that, yeah. Last question, I suppose. When obviously you haven't been here for the last 2 weeks, last 2 races. We only saw you complete 6 laps in the practice session before we went into qualifying, whereas the likes of, say, Simon Edwards, he completed nearly 80. Did you do much practice at all before we went into this, sort of before tonight, basically, or was it a case of those 6 laps really was it for you?
No, I'd done a race, was it Tuesday? I think I did a race. So and I was racing against Greg Seitz, so I had a good marker to race against. But that in a half an hour last night, that was it. That's been it.
A little bit of preparation. So the rest of the field can't feel too bad that someone's just turned up, done 5 laps, and then decided to win the race. Brilliant stuff. Obviously, fighting towards back in the championship, I suppose, after having the 2 weeks off. Are you likely to miss more as we go forward? There's only about 6 weeks left.
Yeah, I'm hoping to make next week because I like it's what's it called, the one in Australia.
I do have it in my head, Mount Panorama.
Mount Panorama, that's the one. I like that, so hopefully I'll try and make that next week. But after that, I might be struggling again. So we'll see.
Well, it's a hell of a circuit to be coming on for, isn't it? So look forward to that one. John, thank you very much for jumping in. Congratulations on the race victory. Is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you go?
shout out to you guys again, the usual, and Dave's mum, of course.
I feel so honoured. Thank you very much, John. I'm blushing.
Thanks, Jacko.
Oh, well, yeah. Congratulations on the race win.
Cheers, man.
And that was John McHutchinson coming in for the chat, Ed. And I believe we've got second place man, Paul Crabb. Do you want to have a chat to him?
I think I can have a chat with Paul Crabb, who joins us now in the Coach Rocks. Welcome, Paul. That was a busy race from you. You got pole position, led the first phase of the race, but following a little bit of damage you managed to pick up on the rear of your car, it just was a battle to try and keep second from then on.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. I didn't realize I got damaged, so I was going okay. It didn't feel like it affected it too much. But my biggest mistake was getting a slowdown through the corkscrew, which let John through. So,
well, that's unfortunate to hear. But of course, how tricky is this Laguna Seca circuit, especially cool one when the car's a little bit slippy in those first few moments?
yeah, I've practiced the opening 2 laps quite a bit because it's a nightmare. If you try and use your normal braking markers, you just overshoot the first left-hander at the bottom of the straight. You just have to be ever so careful with it. Unfortunately, John wasn't overly aggressive either. I think he probably could have got alongside a couple of times when he didn't. So it was I mean, I kept trying to catch John, and I would put 2 good laps together, and I'd nibble a few tenths off him, and then I'd throw away 5 tenths, and a bit frustrating. So
yeah, and then of course this does good wonders for your championship with a second place finish. I mean, how do you approach the next few rounds of the championship going into this late stage?
just take them as they come. I'm really looking forward to the next few races. The last, I think, it's the 3 more to go. They're absolutely cracking tracks.
I think there is only a few more. So Carmier, of course, Bathurst
There's
being
more
one of
than
them. I
3.
think that's
There's Mount Panorama, Phillip Island, Road Atlanta, Twin Rig, Motegi, Okayama, and Nürburgring Nordschleife. So there's 6 to go.
You're right. I tell you what I've been looking at. I've been looking at the league list, and Chris Kane has just been a bit slow in putting him in there. I guess we will.
At least we've called him out on
it. Yeah, I did think the season was coming to an end a bit quick. Yeah, so yeah, I'm looking forward to the rest of them. I don't particularly like Laguna Seca that much. I hate the sausages on the apexes, as does everyone else, I think. So yeah, one wrong move and you're scuppered. So
yeah, I don't think you're alone there, but going to Bathurst, that's going to be much better. How do you rate your chances going there?
I should be okay. I like Bathurst. Like I generally survive, and I can go okay. But I suspect if Mr. Webster turns up and John does a bit more practice, then it'll be tricky. I'd be happy to be in the top 4 or 5, I think. So
well, hopefully we'll see you there, mate. Hopefully you'll be off to a good start to the final stage of the championship. Maybe it's not coming to a close as early as we thought it would, but I'm sure you'll be right there at the end regardless. Thank you, though, Paul, for jumping in and having a chat to us. Is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to here on the broadcast?
Anyone else shout out to? Do you know a guy called Suelio Almeida? He's a Twitch streamer. Really does really good driving tuition videos, and I've been watching him, and he's definitely helped with some of my worst habits. So yeah, I give a shout out to him because he's a really good guy. Yeah.
Well, I've never heard of him before, but I might give him a bit of a watch tonight. Thank you, Paul.
Yeah, he's worth watching. He's an ace driver, and very shall we say very reserved about it. He's not a bit not all ego, which is good.
That's good to know. And thank you very much, Paul, for jumping in and having a word with us. We will say goodbye to you and wish you all the best for the next round.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. See you.
And with that, Paul Crabb will exit the commentary box, and I think we have just enough time to have a word with, I think, Simon Edwards, Jack, so you can have a word with him now.
Yeah, hi Simon. Obviously, championship leader going into tonight. Championship leader on your way out of tonight as well. A little bit of a quiet race for you in the end. You didn't quite have the ultimate pace compared to the front two, did you?
I think in free air I did, but I just couldn't drive in the draft, and then I just ate my tyres, and then I couldn't even hold on to them. So they had me in race pace, if you like. So without me on pole, I don't think I had a chance getting near them really. So I just stayed safe, and a bit boring, I'm afraid.
Well, I wouldn't say boring, Simon. It's never boring, is it, motorsport? But if we look at the championship instead, maybe of the actual race, third place, obviously, Paul Crabb's just inched back a little bit closer, and John McCutcheon inched back a touch closer as well. But realistically, you had about a 40-point gap. So realistically, you've extended it compared to most other drivers out there on the circuit. You must be fairly confident going into the second half of the season with that gap as well.
Yeah, I think whoever wins 2 more races will have a good chance at the championship. Be that Paul, be that Dan, be that John, be that me. Because of the drop weeks. So I think that's probably going to play it out. And I'd like the next 2 tracks, but they can be a little bit random in this because they're both draft. But I love them anyway. So with Mount Panorama and Phillip Island. So yeah, it should be a good battle, I think, and we should be able to get closer to each other in those tracks as well. So hopefully it'll be a better race.
Well, I was going to say, you wouldn't have seen it, but the actual fight that was about the top 12, for the fight for the top 10, about 10th down to about 14th was actually quite spectacular. That's what we focused on most of the race. So, no, brilliant. Thank you very much, Simon Edwards, for coming in and having a chat to us. Congratulations on the third place, and that sort of extension on the championship leader. You're pretty much where you were. I'm hoping you're looking forward to Bathurst, where we'll speak to you again. Is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you go?
Well, I haven't shouted out you guys again. I really enjoy your banter and your knowledge and your coverage generally. So I'm going to give you guys a shout out.
Oh, thank you very much, and I'm sure all the knowledge is probably coming from Ed, because I just stand here and shout at a monitor, but thank you very much for the kind words, Simon, and good luck for Mount Panorama.
Thank you.
And that was Simon Edwards coming in, and we've had a chat to all 3 of our podium sitters, Ed, so it's probably about that time we sign off. So we go from Laguna Seca, we go to Bathurst next. And it's going to be quite exciting, I'm sure. But it's sort of similar in a lot of ways to Laguna Seca. Very difficult to drive, very twisty, very windy, very sort of technical. But then the second half of it, it's draft galore, isn't it? And some really heavy braking zones.
Yeah, so I cannot wait, Jack. You know it's going to be brilliant. Drivers do need to balance out the setup as well, but I think you'll find a lot of drivers opting for low downforce steps to take advantage of that straight line speed. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching. And Jack, I've got to go, so I'll let you finish up the broadcast.
Yeah, thank you very much for everyone tuning in, whether you've liked, subscribed, or just sat there and silently judged us. It's been an absolute pleasure being your host this evening. My name has been Jack Oliphant, and alongside me has been Ed May on Absolute Sim Racing. If you want to catch more of the UK&I Radical Race Series, then all you have to do is hit the subscribe button and tune in next week at exactly the same time. It's going to be Dan Handover and Ed May on the comments boxes. I'm off to the Isle of Wight on holiday. But it's been an absolute pleasure, and I can't wait to hear from you all again in 2 weeks' time. Good night.